Nothing revives the nation's spirits like a royal wedding. And wedding bells are about to ring once more.
Can you tell us how Prince William proposed to you? And did he get down on one knee?
Yeah, I've been waiting to that's going to stay a secret.
William is going to marry Kate!
It's a celebration for everyone.
I pronounce that they be man and wife together.
We all love a royal wedding.
Breaking all bounds, the crowd surged forward in a vast wave towards the very gates of the palace.
As we shall see, these extraordinary scenes would set a pattern for future royal weddings that continues to this day. On April the 29th, 2011, Prince William and his bride will be watched by 2.5 billion people worldwide. Less than 100 years ago, though, royal weddings were largely private affairs, celebrated behind closed doors. It was rather different in 1923 when the late Queen Mother joined the royal family. Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, a 22-year-old Scottish beauty, left her home in a dress of ivory chiffon moiré. The groom was the future King George VI. Officially titled the Duke of York, the family knew him as Bertie. He was the first son of a king to marry at Westminster Abbey since 1382. In those days, film cameras were not allowed inside the Abbey. Afterwards, the newlyweds took a long route back to Buckingham Palace. Such was the size of the crowd lining the streets of the capital. Less than 5 years after the Great War, this was an occasion that lifted the whole country. On the palace balcony, Bertie proudly showed off his bride for the first time. The public adored this new style of royal wedding. The Yorks became a popular team, meeting, greeting, and looking the part. At home, they soon became devoted parents. And in 1927, their first child, Princess Elizabeth, made her first appearance on the palace balcony. A little sister, Margaret Rose, would follow in 1930. Family life came easily to Bertie and Elizabeth. While Bertie's older brother, Edward, the heir to the throne, was still a restless bachelor, the other Windsor brothers took their lead from the Yorks. And in the summer of 1934, the youngest, Prince George, future Duke of Kent, announced his own engagement to Princess Marina of Greece.
We have received so many congratulations. We want to thank everyone for all their kindness to us.
I'm so very happy and looking forward to come to England.
On November the 29th, 1934, the bridal carriage left for Westminster Abbey. The morning was so dreary that street lamps were required to light the processional route.
Not very often is it given to the average man and woman to feel that he or she is assisting in the making of history. A royal wedding is a historical occasion. All of us will go on referring to it for the rest of our lives.
Filming was still not permitted in the Abbey, although this was the first royal wedding service to be broadcast on the wireless.
The police permit the waiting multitude to surge across to the palace railings. Here, enthusiasm is rewarded as the Duke and Duchess of Kent appear on the balcony. They are joined by the King and Queen and members of both bride and bridegroom's families, including little Princess Elizabeth, the smallest bridesmaid.
While Princess Elizabeth was a bridesmaid, it was her sister, Margaret Rose, who got the better view, with the help of her doting grandparents, King George V and Queen Mary. It was the king's third son, Prince Henry, who married next. The future Duke of Gloucester had proposed at the age of 35 to an adventurous aristocrat, Lady Alice Montague Douglas Scott. She lived in Kenya and spoke Swahili, surely a royal first. On her wedding day in November 1935, she carried a bouquet of lilies and wore a brave smile. Her father, the Duke of Buccleuch, had died just 2 weeks before, and the state occasion planned for Westminster Abbey had been scaled down to a private ceremony in the chapel at Buckingham Palace.
After the service, the bride and bridegroom appear on the balcony, hand in hand, and receive a delighted acclamation from the big throng below. Then, the King and Queen join their son and daughter-in-law and renewed cheers.
This time, both the king's granddaughters were bridesmaids. But just 3 months later, George V was dead. The new king, Edward VIII, seemed destined to become a hugely popular monarch. He fascinated the public, yet few were aware of what was going on in his private life. The king was besotted with Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee whom he was determined to marry.
Happy hours for a man who risks his kingdom for happiness. Bright times for the fascinating American woman whose graces have shaken the British Empire. The fate of empire, the destiny of monarchy, rests with the will of this young man.
In film unseen by the British public, the rest of the world caught a glimpse of the king on holiday with the woman he loved. But the Church of England and the government would not accept a divorcee for Queen. Edward faced an unprecedented choice. His decision shocked the world.
But you must believe me when I tell you that I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do, without the help and support of the woman I love.
While Edward left the country, Bertie succeeded to the throne.
The Dean of Westminster brings the crown of England, St. Edward's crown, to the Archbishop.
Bertie took his father's name to become King George VI. Two weeks later, a very different royal wedding took place at the Château de Condé in France, where the ex-king married Wallis, with only 16 close friends as witnesses. The ceremony was in stark contrast to the pageantry enjoyed by Edward's 3 brothers. Not a single member of the royal family attended. Edward and Wallis, now the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, faced an uncertain future abroad. But at home, Britain embraced the new king and his family. The king spent as much time as possible with Elizabeth, whom he called his pride, and Margaret, his joy. Now heir to the throne, Princess Elizabeth seemed keenly aware of her destiny. In the summer of 1939, the old royal yacht, the Victoria and Albert, brought the family to the Royal Naval College, Dartmouth, where the king had trained as a cadet. His daughters had their own personal guide, 18-year-old Prince Philip of Greece. They'd met before, but this time it was different. He made a lasting impact on Princess Elizabeth. It was no coincidence that Prince Philip's uncle, Lord Louis Mountbatten, had organised the royal visit. Weeks later, everything changed. The world was at war. George, Duke of Kent, serving as an air commodore in the RAF, was killed in a flying accident. His happy marriage with Princess Marina had produced 3 children. Their third, Prince Michael, was born just 6 weeks before her husband's death.
This was the moment we'd all been waiting for. To hear the end of the war in Europe officially announced by the Prime Minister.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May. Advance, Britannia! Long live the cause of freedom! God save the King!
The royal family appeared on the palace balcony for the first time in years, with 19-year-old Princess Elizabeth proudly in uniform.
Today, we give thanks to God for a great deliverance. Speaking from our empire's oldest capital city, war battered, but never for one moment daunted or dismayed.